Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the People's International Chat Show. Well, they say a week is a long time in politics. I don't know, but it's changing by the hour. We've got our usual cohort here, Colin McPherson from Germans for Independence, myself, Pat Lee, for obviously the Yes movement, and Raymond Dykstra, our broadcaster tonight. Raymond, you'll be joining in with the conversation as well.
Definitely.
Right. And we have at the top of the show the man himself, the one, the only, Pepper Jock, aka Graham Dallas. Graham, you're going to open up the show with a wee song.
No problem. Give me an F. Give me an R. Give me an E. Give me an E. Give me a D. Give me an O. Give me an F.
Yeah.
What's that spell?
Read out.
What's that spell?
Read out.
Can you feel it? We're almost there. Are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Are you ready?
Hell yeah.
I can't wait. We're almost there. You can run, you can hide, but you can't go back inside. Like a river, we are running to be free. And deep down inside, you know you will never stop the flow. So prepare for Independence Day. Are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Can't wait. We're almost there. You can run, you can hide, but we will not be denied. Like a storm, we will blow and blow and blow. And we know, you know, this storm will not let go until Independence Day. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't wait. We're almost there. Give me an F. Give me an R. Give me an E. Give me an E. Give me a D. Give me an O. Give me an F. What's that?
Woo!
Well done, Graham.
Thank
Just like to see hello here. Our Nancy. Our Nancy's watching live here. Nice to see you, Nancy. And we are ready.
Hi,
We are
nice.
ready. But are we ready for the mess that's coming from Westminster? Guys, I'm going to just run with the single story. There's Ian Leckenby on. Remember to drop your panels today for your questions for the panel in the chat. Tina Unerman has joined us. Guys, has Boris Johnson created the first British dictatorship? Graham, I'm going to come straight to you because we usually take you last.
Again, I've been saying it for weeks. The name that keeps coming back is Dominic Cumming. Guy is just a law unto himself, works on a completely different plane. And I think he's just been orchestrating this in the background. I think he's gone too far this time, though. Don't think they're going to get away with this one. I think the next few days there'll be a lot of, your Ken Collapse and all that all coming out the woodwork. There's going to be a backlash within the Tory party from this. They might support him and have no confidence for it. But we've already seen Ruth Davidson falling off the cliff today. Much as I hate Tories, there's quite a few people in that party will be disgusted at what happened today. Remember, all these people sat in a debate when they were trying to be leaders, Michael Goves and Dominic Raabs, and said that would be an affront to democracy to do what they've done today. In fact, Dominic Raab was saying it would be a slight on those men that fought in those beaches for us. He went as far as to say that. And within months, these same people were doing that. It's a disgrace.
But is it not a sleight of hand? Because only yesterday did the opposition agree that they would use legislation to stop no deal. And Boris's commitment is that we will be leaving, or the UK will be leaving the EU on the 31st. Now, they've taken the legislation time and they've put it to the side because they've interrupted it. There was going to be 3 weeks recess for the parliamentary conferences or political party conferences. But he shortened that by adding 2 weeks to that recess, which means there won't be enough time to legislate. So the next thing that has to happen to attack Boris is to have a vote of no confidence, which means there will be a general election. But that general election is decided by Boris when it takes place, and that'll be after Brexit. Colin?
Well, to answer your first question, dictatorship, yes. No two ways about it. That is exactly what Boris Johnson is doing. He is basically doing all he can to limit the time for parliamentary scrutiny of any plans he comes up with, if he even comes up with a plan. There was an interesting point, his henchman, the guy is called David Frost, went to Brussels today, a long-arranged visit to have talks with the EU, and the sources reporting on that visit have again said that he was prepared to talk, but he's got no proposals. And I really have to say, I don't think that Boris Johnson is going to come up with any more concrete proposals between now and the 31st of October, because Boris Johnson is intent on crashing out with no deal, with all the damage it will cause to the UK and all the damage it will cause to Scotland. So Boris Johnson isn't interested in a solution. What he is doing is playing the blame game. He's playing the blame game. He's going to blame the EU for being intransigent and not accepting any compromise, specifically on matters of the backstop. At the same time, he knows he has opposition in Parliament who are coming together to prevent crashing out with no deal. And that is why he went for this step today to bring forward the Queen's speech on a very tenuous argument that as a new government we want to be working for the country. A very, very tenuous argument though, because at the end of the day, let's just assume that Brexit in some way is settled by the 31st of October, and the UK government, for a change, which we haven't seen in the last 3 years, gets on with the day job of governing the United Kingdom, which we are still, unfortunately, a constituent part of. Now, does the Queen's speech really have to be on the 14th of October? Does it make any difference after 3 years of a government doing absolutely nothing on internal politics? Does it really make any difference to wait for 3 weeks and give Parliament the time to discuss Brexit and how the whole situation roundabout might be working out? No, it doesn't. So it is a very, very thinly disguised scam by Boris Johnson to negate parliamentary democracy to stymie the folk that are working against his preferred no-deal Brexit scenario. And ultimately, it is an absolute disgrace. I've been raging all day. I think many of us have been raging all day, because this is not a parliamentary democracy, but folk in Scotland. The question we have to be asking ourselves is, when do we stop trying to save the rest of the UK from the smash they have put themselves into with Farage, with the Brexit Party, with this extreme right-wing Tory government? And when is it for Scotland to turn around and say, we need a different course of action?
Yeah. Ian Angus McNeill came out with a wee tweet earlier on tonight, asking why the SNP haven't got India F2 front and centre with what's taking place. Now, Nicola Sturgeon has said they can bring the agenda forward. I would say it's imperative now, because not only has she said that, she's also stated that it's no longer ridiculous to think that Boris wouldn't shut down Holyrood. Now the question is, what are we, the Scots people, prepared to do if that is intimated? If they even mention taking the powers away from our Parliament and handing it to Queen Elizabeth House, the parallel government that's set up for taking control of Scotland, the same as they're trying to set up down in Westminster with the opposition parallel parliament. We need to be prepared, and we need, the Yes Movement need to get together on this. We've had hands off our Parliament last year. We need to consider camping out for as long as necessary to protect our government. But that's just my view. Raymond, you've not come in on the subject.
Yes.
Is he a dictator? Is he Britain's first dictator? Has he simply put a general election front and centre?
Well, my opinion, just let me finish. I think Boris is not the first dictator of Britain. It's always been a dictatorship in my book. Maybe party wide, I don't know what, but it's just more openly done by Boris. It's more blatant that he is showing it to the public. As much as I'm an SNP member, and as much as I trust Nicola to do her job and I do think this is the time now that he's doing this, to call for India F2. It needs to be now.
Now, I'm not so sure, but I would think in an emergency situation we would be able to bring that legislation, or fast track that legislation, to hold the referendum and say to Johnson, if he's going to go down this road, then we're simply going to hold the referendum.
Yeah.
Because you're going to reject any Section 30, and the supposed gold standard cannot be met. But we then, if it's within our powers, let's get the lawyers around this. They're using the Scottish law courts to stop Joanna Cherry's case, and the 75 MPs to stop the proroguing of Parliament. But it's been announced it will take place. So either that has to be sanctioned and decided upon by the Court of Session right now, and that means tomorrow or Friday. We don't know. They've simply asked for it to be brought forward, What actions? We've got protests in London tonight, outside Westminster. What further actions do we need to take to prepare ourselves for what's coming down the road?
But we need.
I think it's just going to happen. Demonstrations already been organised for Edinburgh and right across the country. I think we're underestimating the power of the people. I think there's outrage throughout the country. I don't think it's just Scotland. I think throughout England there's outrage in this. I think what is unacceptable, and it just shows how out of touch the establishment. And I mean, you all saw Jacob Rees-Mogg walking through the airport. He was basically laughing at the questions being put to him. And these were really serious questions, but these people just, they're so out of touch. They think they do control the country, but they can only, I honestly think they've overstepped the mark.
I agree with you totally. We've got Emily Davis here. Here's one for you guys. You could throw this about. Has Johnson been influenced by the Trump administration on this?
I think he's been in his pocket ever since he was foreign minister.
Colin?
And even before that, maybe.
Influenced insofar as Boris Johnson sees what a populist can achieve. I don't necessarily think he's being paid for by Trump. I don't think but very definitely has seen is with the rhetoric, with the bluster, how far you can get. And that is probably somewhere at the back of his mind in what he's doing now, that he knows fine well if he talks enough, talks the talk, then folk, he thinks at least, will go for what he's trying to say. And interestingly, in German media, what I've been seeing tonight, all these opinion pieces on what's been happening today, there was one sentence that stood out. What Trump has been seeing, what Johnson has been seeing is that the recipe book of populism fits perfectly with his hunger for power. I think that is what we are seeing. And he's being encouraged by Trump, both overtly, Donald Trump tweeting his stuff every now and then, but also he sees what Trump's been doing in the US and thinks, I can do that too.
Yeah. Raymond, have you give us a piece on this?
Well, like I said, I truly do think that they're at least they're in each other's ears. He's been over there quite a few times as foreign minister, and I do believe that maybe not he's not in is receiving payments or anything, but I do think they're in each other's ears, and to kind of like see basically synchronizing their watches, so to speak, to get everything done for the I don't know how to explain, but like I said the watch to synchronize everything for their sick purposes.
In collusion with it.
Exactly, that's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to say a couple of hellos. We've got, obviously, Emily, thanks for the question, Emily Davis. Paul Dixon. Ian Buron dropping some lines there. Excellent. William Forbes. Ruthie Dixon. Yeah. And John Park. Big John's watching the now. John, feel like drop a wee question in. Please do so. Paul Wright. Alan Mackay, Ronnie Gordon. I'll bet Boris has been paid millions to be the scapegoat for the Tories. He doesn't care about things as when the dust settles, he'll be a richer man. I can't disagree with you, Ronnie. John Park is saying now, I'm taking it we need to call the referendum now.
Click on more. There's a whole article underneath it.
Yeah. Davis Nancy, I think if she can secure Shetlands tomorrow, could push Indy quicker. That's the Shetlands by-election. If the SNP take the Shetlands, that might be an indicator. I'm not so sure. There can be a little too much caution. We've got Lorraine Sinclair. Yeah. Good. We'll get viewing figures increasing as we speak.
Well, Pat, what do you think of this question? Emily Davis saying, I feel like Trump is pushing to make Britain a little fish that can be more easily manipulated. Leaving the EU would make that much more possible.
So, Trump is treating
Now,
us as a little fish.
No, I feel like Trump is pushing to make Britain a little fish, like downplaying, that can be more easily manipulated. Leaving the EU would make that much more possible.
Very true. Yeah. Within, following on you go.
I think it's a very fair point, because what we know right now is that there's going to be, assuming Brexit happens on the 31st of October, there's going to be the need to negotiate trade deals with the rest of the world. Now, Boris Johnson, just at the weekend, said that if they crash out with no deal, he's not prepared to pay the dues, the severance payment, which has been already agreed upon. Now, this severance payment isn't a fine for leaving the EU. This severance payment is, for example, to cover pensions for 40 years of MEPs, various other common projects which will still carry on even after Brexit.
Mm-hmm.
And the EU has made it very clear that if Boris Johnson takes this policy after crashing out with no deal, he will have it very, very difficult to negotiate any kind of trade deal with the EU. Now, the EU just happens to be the UK's largest trading partner.
Yeah.
So, going back to the original question, if Boris Johnson sticks with his bluster and says, I'm not paying you, the EU are going to say, right, we're not negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's even bigger implications when it comes
specifically with the US. Specifically with the US, which is again what the question was based upon. The UK will be desperate for trade deals, and that's when you wonder how much would Boris Johnson be prepared to sell out. NHS, chlorinated chicken. We all know the stories. Again, bigger stories, Pat. I might be saying what you were about to say. What sort of impression does it make as a negotiating partner if you fail to pay your dues?
That's not only with Europe. That's with the rest of the world.
Exactly. I work for a bank, and if I see a customer hasn't paid his dues at another bank, and I say, well, I'm not giving him £20,000 to buy a new car, and the similar situation will be this idea of not paying the dues. And again, let me reiterate, this isn't some kind of fine. This are dues, these are commitments which the UK already has due to being in the EU for the last 40 odd years. And if the UK turns around and says, we're just not going to pay that, then the rest of the world will look at that and say, well, do I trust that country? Do I really want to sign a trade deal with them? They'll be thinking twice, or three times, or more.
Yeah, Raymond?
Yeah, just off topic, Ian Leckenby just posted something. Latest polls in the Shetland by-election show SNP on 42%, Lib Dems on 41%.
That's fine. We'll wait and see what that result is tomorrow or Friday. He's also put in here, if we get a general election before the 31st of October, the SNP must stand on an indirect 2 mandate, no ifs, buts, or Brexit dependent. Well, that's not quite the case, Ian, because if there is a vote of no confidence in Westminster, yes, it will generate a general election, but the date of that general election is decided by the Prime Minister. So he will decide to, and this is where my thinking is that he's deliberately, after the opposition meeting yesterday and agreeing a strategy to use legislation to ensure that there was a no-deal Brexit, he's come out and said, right, okay, he's cut down the time that can be debated, or the Brexit can be debated, or any legislation. Yeah, I'll be with you in a minute, Colin. He's cut that time down, so there isn't enough time even to legislate for a no-deal Brexit or stop a no-deal Brexit. But there is, he can hold allow the vote of no confidence to be held. Would it be one? Would the Tories actually back Jeremy Corbyn to sit in 10 Downing Street? Because that's the likely outcome. But he holds the key to when that general election takes place, and he will not announce a general election before the 31st of October. And if we hold indirect 2 by the 31st of October, or within the period before the general election is announced, and he announces the general election while we are holding a referendum, the referendum falls and the general election goes forward. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Right,
Double calling the bluff. We had the initial cross-party talks yesterday about how to prevent a no-deal Brexit. Let's just remember, the talks weren't about revoking Article 50, which is, from our mind, the only sensible way forward at the moment, but the talks were to prevent a no-deal Brexit. So Labour, for example, are still prepared to come to some kind of deal with the EU to enable Brexit. And with all the various conversations over the last few weeks, with Jo Swinson coming out with 3 MPs in the dug, thinking that she speaks for the whole country, and being called petulant by saying she won't work with Jeremy Corbyn, or at least won't enable him to become Prime Minister. We have to remember we've got things like the Change Group as well. We've got Tory rebels. A vote of no confidence might just pass next week. What Boris Johnson has done is he's effectively forced the hand, because he said they were going to go for the parliamentary path first and then keep the vote of no confidence as, if you like, a final option. By reducing the parliamentary time to negotiate and legislate for preventing a no-deal Brexit, he has effectively forced the opposition's hand. That the opposition has to now call that vote of no confidence next week. There's no two ways about it. That has to happen, and I don't care what anybody says. If it doesn't happen, it is a dereliction of duty by the official opposition. What then happens is that they have 14 days to prove they find somebody who can command the confidence of the House, i.e. a new Prime Minister. We don't have the parliamentary majority for Jeremy Corbyn. There might be an argument for somebody like Ken Clarke, father of the House, or the mother of the House taking over. It might happen. But all of this is still nothing other than delaying tactics. Because whatever happens, even if, and Boris Johnson again was, or his number 10 sources were quoted today as saying, if he loses the vote of no confidence, he will sit it out, and the general election will not be until after the 31st of October, when the default scenario is leaving the EU, like it or lump it. But even if we have an interim Prime Minister who can command the majority of the House, and they talk for another general election. We have to remember one very basic fact. Any further extension to the Article 50 process requires the EU to agree to it. Now, the EU are getting sick and tired of the whole shenanigans. The EU will not be prepared to extend Article 50 just so that we can have another general election and then maybe a people's vote and then maybe something else and then maybe something else and then somebody else gets back to the negotiating table. A process which could take another year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. The EU want to finally put this to bed. They are prepared to find a deal. They are prepared to negotiate with Boris Johnson if he can come up with concrete proposals how to avoid the backstop, which is what he is so dead set against. But just because maybe Prime Minister Kenneth Clarke calls a general election, that's not then done and dusted. The EU will agree to an extension of Article 50 because the UK government has wasted the last 3 years and the EU are getting sick and tired of it. The only way to avoid Brexit, no deal, isn't what the Tories are telling us to agree to the deal. The only way to avoid a no-deal Brexit now is next week, a vote of no confidence, an interim Prime Minister, revoke Article 50, then we can talk about a general election.
Right. Agreed. Graham, you're sitting there almost asleep, sir. General election, change of government. Can it be done in this time, do you think?
Oh, I don't really know. Nothing's going to change the situation that we're in. You can have general elections, we've had a change of leadership. At the end of the day, the question about Brexit is always going to be, are we leaving without a deal, or are we going to accept their deal? And there's no majority for either, I don't think. My big concern
Graham, there's an absolute majority for not leaving without a deal. Absolute majority in Westminster. That was voted on.
I just think come the 31st of October, we're out of the EU. That's
the plan.
Unless they go back and ask for an extension. And my concern is really practical part of that. The guy drives up his lorry full of meat to take, or fish to take to France. What happens there? He's no paperwork to get through customs, so we're instantly going to be a log jam. I think we're getting to the stage where we really need to think of the practicalities of this now, because we're going to be in a situation where we're not going to be able to get food into the country, and we're not going to be able to get exports out of the country. It's getting past the politics now. It's actually getting quite serious, and I think that's why you're going to see people on the streets. But yeah, if they go to a general election, they've got 50% of the country there that are going to vote for them to go for a no-deal Brexit. So they will win the general election because the Remain vote is completely split between ourselves, the Lib Dems, the Labour Party. Our vote's split. So they will win that general election, but the situation will remain the same. We're going to be out of the EU unless they ask for an extension. We're out of the EU on the 31st of October.
Well, there's one caveat to that, Graham. Joanna Cherries and others, the 75, their court decision, if that takes place tomorrow or Friday, and the Court of Session adjudges it to be unlawful to prorogue Parliament, then there's a means to get back to the legislation, allowing legislation to pause Brexit.
We can't pause Brexit. Colin made the point. You need 26, 29 countries on the other side of the channel to agree to Brexit. So at this moment, on the 31st of, no matter what our Parliament does, on the 31st of October, we are out of the EU unless the EU agree to let us extend or stay.
Agreed.
Which will only do if there are concrete proposals and a concrete chance where the EU thinks that something might happen. And that is again the point. The EU has again said, I think it was today, I can't remember, was it Barnier or Juncker, that if Britain crashes out with no deal, that's not what the EU wants to see. But somewhere along the line, patience is hanging on a very, very sugary peg at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there is common sense in Europe where there is not in the UK and in Westminster. There is common sense that if Europe doesn't agree to an extension of some sort, then they're also assisting Boris Johnson of pushing through this no-deal Brexit, because it takes away the opportunity of MPs, should the court be in favour of deciding that it's unlawful to it's definitely undemocratic. Is it unlawful? And if it can be proved to be unlawful, then it can be stopped. And the EU would look favourably in giving the UK another opportunity, I would think, because they have common sense. We're on this path of destruction that nobody wants to jump off properly.
Just kick the can down the road, though.
I agree.
I agree with Graham. It's kicking the can down the. But at this time, that's what's available. Because unless we stop Brexit, we're going.
It's not available. They have to agree to it, So
if the court decides it is unlawful to implement prorogation.
Yeah, you're back in Parliament, but you can't go past the 31st of October. We can't make that decision.
No, they can sit and make legislation that we don't leave. They can sit and make legislation that we don't leave without a deal, which means that Boris Johnson would have to go back and ask for that extension.
He would have to go back and ask for that extension. And I agree with you, the common sense is there on the EU side. If they thought there was a chance of something else happening, they would agree to the extension. But if Boris Johnson can only go around with his bluster, no new proposals, effectively negating democratic rights, negating the democracy of Parliament, and then he goes back on the 31st of October and says, Mr. EU, can we have a bit more time, please? We're going to want to see something concrete from them. They don't want to have they don't want to be told or have the blame game played that it was their intransigence that made it. But there's a phrase in German, ein Ende mit Schrecken oder ein Schrecken ohne Ende. It basically means a finale with a horror scenario or a horror scenario with no end date. And somewhere along the line, if the EU get the impression that they're just banging their heads against a brick wall, because Boris Johnson, who would, let's be also perfectly honest, if there was a general election held in the next couple of weeks or months, on current polls, we would have a Tory majority. So Boris Johnson would probably still be the Prime Minister, not able to come up with anything apart from his bluster. Somewhere along the line, the EU are going to say, all right, we've done our best, but we have had enough of this, we're through.
That's possible, but I'm going to come back to this court case. If this court case says that it is unlawful to prorogue, then prorogue doesn't take place. It would probably go to the Supreme Court. And I've got to believe that they would see it as being unlawful, definitely undemocratic. It then brings back into play the ability to legislate against a no deal, which then should it be Boris Johnson going back to Europe to ask for that extension. But remember that they still have under their sleeve the right to revoke Article 50. If it looks as if there's no other option, they would have the right to revoke Article 50 at any time before the cut-off date. So it brings scenarios back into the picture that weren't there previously. But it will send Johnson to Europe unless he resigns. It will send Johnson to Europe with his tail between his legs. And he will have to act on the instruction of Parliament and takes his dictatorship away from him. That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
In theory, you're right. That would be a good scenario. In practice, though, can you really see Johnson going to the EU with his tail between his legs? He's still going to be blustering away. And he's going to get to the stage where he is effectively going to piss folk off that much. They just say,
he's going to?
yes, we've had enough of this. Off you go.
Raymond.
A couple of nice comments on the chat. Ian Leckenby said new ferry link being advertised from north of Holland to Edinburgh. Road signage for Scotland already being installed in Europe. William Forbes basically responding to that. We need to open others as well, as the ports down south will be chalkers and Scottish lorries will be pushed to the back of the queue. Sorry guys, Brexit is coming. Bozo wouldn't go to these extremes as he wants the vote of the Brexiteers in England for another general election to get back in again.
Totally agree with that.
No, listen. Actually delivering Brexit seems to be the England and Wales's population's ideal, because they have been misinformed. No one actually knew what they were voting for in 2016, and they certainly didn't know they were voting for this. So that's where we are with that.
It's always been like the whole credo for that EU referendum was to take our country back.
Yeah.
What?
Take power back.
Well, look at what that got you. And a lot of people are seeing that now.
Bringing power back to our Parliament.
Yeah.
There's an interesting point Hardeep Singh Kohli made on Twitter the night. He says the ironic thing about the whole process right now is that if Boris Johnson gets through with this pro-Rogan Parliament, the only elective legislative in those 5 weeks with power over the UK will be the European Parliament. Mm-hmm. Ironic.
But what effectively can the European Parliament do? Nothing.
None. No.
Nothing.
I mean, again, there's been talk today about they're going to start an investigation about the democratic use of pro-Rogan Parliament, irrespective of what the Court of Session decides, with the possibility of sanctions that they've used against Poland or against Hungary in the past, where the countries were seen to be not living up to the European democratic ideal. But I mean, I don't really think Boris Johnson cares if the European Parliament is investigating him on democracy. He's got his blinkers on.
Well, on the 31st of October, he's due to the jurisdiction of the ECJ anyway.
So what can they do? Suspend him from sitting in the European Council for 4 weeks and then they're anyway. I mean, it's a nice thing to see that there is certainly support in Europe for this anti-democratic stance, but it's actually nice, but not going to have anything tangible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have Ian telling us a few of us have been marching this year, but I know what you mean to Stuart Boyce. Is it time for civil disobedience? Peaceful civil disobedience. Graham?
Peaceful, yeah, as in lying down in the roads and...
As in whatever means possible, but as long as it's peaceful.
I think, but it has to be peaceful. I think we're playing into their hands if we start to, use violence. So violence will be used against us, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm happy to lie down in a road in front of, or to send 1,000 people down to block the streets of Parliament with cars or whatever. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, the people are. I'm not just talking about people of Scotland now. The people of Britain really have to speak. We've got a lot of great socialist friends down in England who are also horrified at what's happening now. And there is going to be a lot of that. He's not going to get away with this. He can't get away with this.
Well, unless there is a public outrage, this is going through. Unless the people stand up and oppose what's happening, and that includes Nicola Sturgeon, and not just opposing it with rhetoric. We have the means. Is now the time to call back our Parliament, even now, and start the process of legislation to hold under F2. Never mind farting about. We're in an emergency situation for Scotland. So should we be calling back the Parliament, bringing forward the legislation, and ensuring that it's available prior to... If Boris Johnson is dead set in postponing everything else bar Brexit, we then need to hold that independence referendum before the 31st of October. Now, many say there is no time to do that. I totally disagree with that. In an emergency situation, you take emergency measures. Colin, I see you nodding your head. I don't know whether it's an approval or
I'm
a disapproval.
I'm agreeing with you, mate. I mean, we are in an emergency situation right now, and we have to use everything in our power. Now, again, we've been discussing over the last few months a referendum without Section 30. We get questions about, do we need approval from Westminster? Do we not need approval from Westminster? Is maybe a referendum without Section 30 going to be boycotted by the unionists? At the end of the day, right now, it doesn't matter. Because right now we are in a state of emergency where we have to try everything that we have in our powers, be it recalling Holyrood, bring the legislation forward, calling India Ref 2 as an advisory referendum, which can be done by the Scottish Parliament, and the Brexit referendum, by the way, was also advisory. And even if the unionists decide to boycott it, then we're back to the stage what we were talking about a year ago with the doorstep referendum. If we get 50% plus one of the votes in that independence referendum, irrespective of Section 30, irrespective of a boycott, we have a majority for independence. So we've got to really up the ante now. And again, another point which I've been making for a long time, I made it last week, I made it many a time. Just remember what was going on in East Germany 30 years ago. They had a corrupt dictatorship which they were no longer prepared to tolerate. What did they do? They didn't send letters to Moscow saying, please, Mr. Gorbachev, can we have a referendum?
No.
They got up and got out on the streets every Monday night. It started in Leipzig, it then spread throughout the whole of East Germany. We had embassies occupied in the whole of Eastern Europe, in Prague and Budapest, people camping out having picnics in Hungary at the Austrian border till they finally opened the border and says, all right, just get in. We had the human chain in the Baltic republics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, where folk joined hands through 3 capital cities for independence.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we have to now do in Scotland. Civil disobedience, I think, is a personal matter. Some folk are prepared to take it a bit further, some folk maybe not quite so far. I think we should leave that to every individual to decide. But what every individual can do right now, in the next few weeks in Scotland, we have Saturday, a march and rally in Dunfermline. We have a march and rally in Perth the week afterwards. We go Hope Over Fear in Freedom Square the Saturday after that. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, we've got the march and rally in Edinburgh. People power can work. And so my plea to all of you watching this, if in any way you are able to join us at any or all of these marches and rallies, come out. Put your money where your mouth is. Come and join us. This way, we can show that the appetite for independence is there, and if we can show a big enough appetite for independence, then Boris Johnson won't be able to ignore it either.
Mm-hmm. All right. Raymond, you've been sitting quietly, son.
Oh, yeah.
What have we got on the feed?
It's going great. I mean, the views that we've had, it's basically amazing. We've not been below 20 viewers at one time. We have not been below that. So that's brilliant. And I want to thank everybody that's been watching up till now and that's continuing to watch to the end of the show. If you have any questions that you want asked, please ask us. If by any chance you want to be on the show, either the last couple of minutes or at a later date, please let us know. Get engaged, get involved with the conversation, and that's basically what we tell everybody: get involved.
Just a wee shout out for Lorraine Sinclair. The 14th of September, Alloa, Alloa, are holding a march and rally and community day. So I would say it's incumbent on all the yes groups to start mobilising and doing something. It may not be a weekend, it may be during the week. Let's get it organised right around the country and let's get the message out. Let's show our support.
I've got a question for Lorraine. Lorraine, if you can hear me, if you're still watching, could you share a link to the event in the chat? That way we can share it to other groups as well. If you can share it in the chat, please do.
Yeah, and also to forward as one on Saturday. This is the first biggest rally since Johnson's announcement of proroguing Parliament. I know there are organisations organising demonstrations throughout the country, but if you're in support of independence and you want to make your presence felt, why not come along with all your yesers? Join your yesers at the Forward is One rally in Dunfermline. We're gathering where? 10:30.
Viewfield Terrace, 10:30.
Where are we gathering?
Viewfield Terrace, Eastport. I mean, I'm not a great expert in Dunfermline geography, but it's basically just one end off the high street.
So we're gathering there at 10:30, and we will be marching at 12 o'clock, I believe.
Aye.
There's a whole load of yes supporting musicians, yes supporting speakers, and I think it's important that we put on a display that says not only is Scotland going to stand against this, but so are communities within Scotland.
Can I make a quick point on Dunfermline as well? It's a very short march. It's basically down the high street, down to the big park at the end of the high street. It's a relatively easy match. I know that Martin, the organiser, Martin Keating, he reckoned today there was somebody mentioned on Facebook, there's going to be lots of road closures. He reckons it'll be about half an hour. So, folk, even if you maybe physically not quite up to these big long marches like we have in Glasgow or in Edinburgh, they've changed it around, it's going to be uphill all the way. This could be a march where maybe you could also manage a lot of it under your own steam. And one thing I can guarantee you, if you have any kind of disability, any kind of physical problem that will stop you making the march under your own steam, there will be plenty of yeses there who will be prepared to help you. So
Yeah.
and enjoy this.
There we have it. Nancy McIver at Viewfield Terrace behind Carnegie Hall. So if you put Carnegie Hall, Dunfermline into your sat-nav, then I'm sure you'll get there. That's how I'm doing it. Okay, we're going to finish up with poor wee Ruth. Wee Ruthie is feeling the pressures, and I take my hat off to her, and I sincerely take my hat off to her, being a mother and a politician. I'll give her the due for the mother side of issue. I will not give her the due for being a politician, because when the chips are down, she's nowhere to be seen. She is now considering her position after the actions of Mr. Boris Johnson. What do you think that says for the Scottish branch of the UK Conservative and Unionist Party? Graham?
I don't know what to say to that, honestly. Well, I just to say anything. I mean, I could never say anything nice about them anyway, so it doesn't change my opinion on them in any way, shape or form. You know.
That's fine. That's an answer. That's an answer. There is nothing we can say apart from Ruth, enjoy your retirement from politics and enjoy your child. Have as much fun as, and I sincerely mean that, because a kid into your life, there is no greater thing. So enjoy that time.
Mark Keating's actually put a good post up, and the way that Martin does it, he's great with words, but at the end of it, he basically said, she's copping out and she's blaming the rain, you know.
No, there are pressures being a mother.
Yeah, I know, but it's just Martin being funny and the way that
Aye. Flipping.
Yeah, flipping. That's the one.
But, sorry Ruth, but you weren't any good in politics anyway. Let's be truth be told. Truth be told, you did worse than which Prime Minister was it? John Major? He get, or was it Maggie Thatcher get 24%, and Ruth managed 22%, and that was an absolute success.
That no good for the Tories in Scotland though,
22%. That was the worst that was the worst that they'd ever received.
In Scotland, is that right? I always thought
Aye.
20%.
22% support. Okay, folks, I think that's us coming to the end of the show. We're just a couple of minutes over time, but we started a couple of minutes later. I don't think there is any other subject that we could have addressed tonight.
Nah.
So I hope you enjoyed the show. Do we want to close with a wee message to the Yes Movement, or those who were wavering on supporting independence? Because I had a couple of conversations over this week with no voters and to a man and a woman. Those who supported no in the last referendum will support yes in the next.
Good to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
hearing that for a long time.
Now, Colin.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you and what you were saying about Ruth Davidson. If she is taking a back seat because of the rain, then good luck to her. Timing makes me wonder whether that is the real reason. with what's coming up, what we have to do now, I'll just reiterate what I said before. I mean, it is down to us in the Yes movement, the grassroots, that have been keeping things ticking over since 2014 for 5 years, to up the ante, get out there on the streets, come to the events, be it the events, the big marches and rallies, or be it the events that the local Yes group is organising, and let's keep the conversation civil.
Exactly.
The voters that are now yes, it used to be no. We don't have to slag them off saying, what were you thinking about in 2014? We welcome them into the folds. There's no arrogance. I've been a yes longer than you. They're on our side. And on our side, when we get enough of this on the one side, we will have our independence. And
Amen.
that is, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raymond, you want to add anything to
Well, basically, the message that I want to put out is the same message that I've been saying for about a little over a year now. Is for people to we're getting at the end. Basically, the end game is here for Scottish independence, and there's no more room for egos. There's no more room for people saying, I am fighting for Scottish independence, but I don't want to share a platform with so and so.
Yeah.
Cut that out till after independence has been achieved. It serves no purpose than your own ego. Stop
Yeah.
it. And once independence has been achieved, you can vote for whoever you want. You can like or dislike whoever you want. Right now, we need to stand shoulder to shoulder, side by side, for the common goal, Scottish independence, and that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah. Right, before we go off here, just going to say a big thank you to everybody that's posted and mentioned. We've got Paul Dixon. Thanks, guys. It's a great show. Nancy saying exactly the same thing. Lorraine Sinclair, Elaine Minty Lopez. Thanks, guys. Interesting evening. Willie Forbes, as always. Ruth is running because she knows what is coming. It's Tory way. Cameron jumped ship. Me jumped ship. Ruthie is jumping ship. There's a pattern here. Gwen Sinclair. Nice to hear from you, Gwen. Hope you're keeping well. Uber Yoon, Adam Tompkinson. Is it Tompkinson? Or it's Adam Tompkins, isn't it?
Tom Tompkins, the professor.
Aye, Professor of what? He's casing Ruth in the Scottish Parliament. So is that cases? Oh, cases?
Means
Is
Jesus.
he crying out for size?
He means Jesus. He was very supportive on Twitter today of the Alistair Jack scenario, the Tory party line about all this proroguing is a normal process. So he's obviously getting into the starting blocks.
Yes, it's a normal process for 3 or 4 days. It is not a normal process for 5 or 6 weeks.
So the Tories won't tell you.
Yeah. And Gordon Kilburn, see you all at Perth, Sir Alba. Sir Alba, Gordon, I hope you've enjoyed the show and I hope you tell all your friends about the show, because this is simply a chat show for anybody. If you want to join and give your comments, whether it's online or to camera, all you need is a Skype address. Send us your Skype address and you can join us. Even if it's only for a short period. You don't have to be here the whole show. You don't have to be an expert. This is about grassroots.
Amen.
It's about giving you the opportunity to pose your questions and pose your scenarios. So, thanks everybody. It's been a blast. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And thanks to my guest Colin McPherson from Germans for Independence, Raymond Dijkstra for Netherlands for Independence, and maybe we could possibly entice some of the Poles and the Italians for Scottish independence, and we couldn't leave without saying thank you very much to our Graham.
Amen.
Our Graham, a stalwart musician and writer, songwriter, artist. You're a starter. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.